Hey everybody, welcome to another stream on, we're actually going out on American in Crimea and West Freedom, because we're kind of covering both ends of the spectrum here right now. So Jay, my illustrious producer, is in the background. She has committed me to a 45-minute stream if our viewership is 45 or less. So if you want me to go longer, you want me to answer more questions, you're going to have to get people to come in and watch more of the stream. So Christopher, howdy. Good to see you, bro. Linda, hello. Dingbat, hi, buddy. And yeah, Christopher says you guys are going to have to start learning Cyrillic letters. So, Cyrillic words. So, Synovigodom. So, I'm going to jump in here because it annoyed me a little bit to see this from somebody who is known to be, shall I say, a good source of information about the front lines, a good journalist, and quite honestly, it's pure propaganda. It's fake, and I'm going to show it to you, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. So, I want you to know that when you're on this channel, I'm not as concerned about views and clicks and likes as some people are. I'm here to give you accurate and truthful information. So there is a video circulating online showing a cat taking down a Ukrainian drone with its paw. A furry hunter from the Donetsk People's Republic mistook a reconnaissance drone for a bird and attacked it with his paw. As a result, the drone crashed into a pole. That is a quote from our friend Mike Jones. So here is the video. And I'll let it play a second time since it took a minute to start up. So, hey Jill, good to see you. Yes, Christopher, thank you for posting this, but it isn't just you because it kind of went viral out there. So, this, if you looked at the screen in the video, it actually tells you what model of drone it is. It is a children's toy. It's an expensive children's toy in Russia, about 175 bucks right now. But it is a Meteor 75 Pro, and it's got itty bitty blades and motors on it. It has an itty bitty battery, and according to their specs, if you see here, average flight time is 5 minutes, and in perfect conditions, you might get 6 minutes out of it. So this obviously would be one lousy reconnaissance drone. The guy would have to be on the other side of your yard to be looking at you over on this side. So, you know, just want people, before they go repost things, and this isn't directed directly at you, Christopher, but, you know, go out and check things out a little bit before you repost them as the truth. This is actually all over the expat channels out there right now. So, I've had some questions this week. We're going to attack them. There's been a big thing about registration laws in Russia. And let me throw this up on the screen. I actually had people arguing with me that I was incorrect on this. Somebody on a work visa was visiting Moscow and was there for 4 days. The police supposedly snagged him and stole 20,000 rubles from him because he had not re-registered within 3 days. It was a long story. I had private messages with this guy in Telegram, and I'm calling BS on it to begin with. The Moscow police are not known to be criminals. Does it happen? Possibly. But the story itself didn't hold a lot of, shall we say, truth in it. They searched his luggage, but what was he doing out on the street with his luggage unless he was leaving? And they just happened to, grab him as he's going to the train station to go to another region. Somebody posted saying, no, you have to register within 3 days. That 3-day rule is about 5 years old. It used to be 3 days. It's been 7 business days for quite some time now, at least 2 to 3 years, with some exceptions. So you can see here that people from Tajikistan can stay for 15 days without registering. A highly qualified specialist, which this guy was, can stay in the country for 90 days, and then they have to register within 70 days of that. And if they go to another region to stay, to visit, move, whatever, but if they're there for 30 days or less than 30 days, and this is business days, they do not need to register. And one thing the police in Moscow know is it is the law. But permanent residence permit, temporary residence, 7 days after receiving your document, you have to register. European Economic Union countries, they get 30 days. And, reality is, no matter what anybody tells you, you have 7 business days to register after you cross the border and come in. If you go to another region to visit, if you're just visiting somebody, going to stay at a hotel, whatever, you do not have to register unless you're there for more than 7 days. So this is from Valen Law, and this is actually from the beginning of this year. So they have how you do it, fines, all that stuff. So this is current information. So it's 7 days. Okay, so I'm just going to go down my list. If I have time at the end of 45 minutes, or we have more than 45 people, I will answer as many questions as I can. So somebody pinged me in the American Crimea Telegram channel, this one here today, and asked me about the marriage law clarification that I posted in that channel. And I think I posted it also in West of Freedom. There is a clarification law on marriages. When I came here 5 years ago, you had to be married to a Russian citizen for 3 years, and this is to get temporary residency. You had to be married for 3 years, but you had to go through the quota process. They eliminated the quota process and said if you're married to a Russian woman and you have a child, you can skip the quota process. They actually never eliminated the 3-year thing. They said no time period. So you don't have to be married for 3 years if you have a child. So they never eliminated the 3-year thing, but people got it in their minds that they had to be married to a Russian woman and have a child or they could not get temporary residency. So what they did is they issued a clarification law saying, no, you have to be married for 3 years. Well, it needed another clarification again. So that's all this new law was, is to say, if you're married to a Russian and you have a child, there is no waiting period. You can immediately apply for temporary residency. If you're married for 3 years and don't have a child, you can then apply for residency. And this person asked me, do you still have to have a background check? Because it sounds like you don't have to. Yes. Anytime you apply, whether it's for temporary residency, if that's the first one you're applying for, if you're immediately applying for permanent residency, which only certain people can do, you need that background check. It has to be within 90 days of you applying. Unless you go with Timur, who has Blatt, not the other one, but Blatt. He can sometimes get that waived. There's another law going around that people are getting confused about foreigners only being able to stay for 90 days in Russia. It's foreigners without a visa can only stay 90 days per year as of January 1st of this year. It used to be they could stay 90 days, leave, come back another 90 days, so 180 days total during a year. So that only applies to foreigners who do not require a visa to get in. Those that require a visa, if you're going to stay for more than 90 days, you do have to go down and get what they call here is a green card. It is not a residency permit like in the United States. It's a card and it's got fingerprints, photo, biometrics. It says that you're in the country legally. Moscow has a red card. I don't know anything about that. You'll have to ping Eddie on that if you want to know about that one, but it's a similar deal. So right now there is a new law as of January 1st. There is now a special expulsion regime for foreigners. And is what it does is it applies to foreigners who are illegally in Russia and those who have committed offenses in Russia. So it doesn't matter who you are if you're here illegally and the immigration police get their hands on you and they start checking documents, you've overstayed a visa, you didn't exit after you were supposed to and come back in, you stayed too many days during the year, or if you committed a crime, there is an immediate expulsion. The police do not have to take you in front of a judge anymore. They get to simply march you to the border and send you on your way. And that gets you banned from the country for a minimum of 5 years. Another new law, it'll actually come into effect on February 5th. And excuse me for looking over here, but I'm trying to see you guys, the comments, Jay talking to me in the background if she does, and my list of the laws over here. So February 5th, if a child is deemed undesirable in Russia, the children and the parents will be deported. So, this comes because there's a lot going on. Hey, Odious. There's a lot going on up around Moscow with people from certain countries that have come to Russia, and their teenagers are beating up on Russian kids. They're causing trouble in the parks, so on and so on. And, that will now get the parents and the children expelled from the country. April 1st, all foreign children must take a Russian language test to prove their Russian language skills in order to attend Russian public schools. That doesn't mean private schools, it doesn't mean homeschooling, but if they want to attend public schools, including universities, they have to prove that they can speak Russian. And a lot of people are all up in arms and saying, well, you know, gee, we're coming here and the kids don't know Russian. Kids pick up Russian pretty quickly, so it's not anything to worry about. Get them a good tutor. This law goes into effect April 1st. How it will be actually applied is debatable, and you have to live in Russia to understand that the law is the law, except when it's not. So, it's likely aimed at certain categories of people who have come here, and a simple way to get them out. But is what's happened is parents have been complaining that foreign students are put into the classroom with native speaking students, and the native speaking students are slowed down because the teachers have to spend so much time with the foreign students trying to explain things to them, trying to get them up to speed. So, what President Putin has ordered is something like English as a second language classes to be created in Russia. So Russian as a second language to help these students learn the language and get into class. So, I honestly have no issue with this. This is my opinion. Get them a tutor when they're available. Get them the Russian as a second language classes. My daughter went to the United States at 7 years old, and we were told she would have to be in ESL classes, English as a second language classes, for about 3 years before she could fully integrate with the classes. And in 3 months, they threw her out of ESL and said she speaks better English than most kids her age. So, are they high expectations for kids in Russia? Yes. The other thing that you will see a lot here is your second or third grader may come to Russia and end up starting a year behind because, again, I'm going to use my daughter as an example. She went in, she was 2 levels advanced on her mathematics, her geometry, her history, so a lot of those classes. So she actually could have gone ahead. We didn't move her ahead because we wanted her to integrate into the society more. But there's a lot of kids being held back here for exactly that reason. Definition of foreign be split into migrants and immigrants. Yeah, the problem is migrants and immigrants are the same thing. It just depends on which side of the border you're standing on. So I wouldn't hold my breath for that. The law is what it is today until it isn't. So I posted this in the last couple of days as well from my lovely wife. There's new signage laws being proposed. They will likely pass from the people I have spoken to in the Duma. And people are complaining, well, and what this law is this signage law says that signs have to be in Russian, can't be in English. And people are saying, well, but there's a lot of, foreign-based words in the language. There's actually a law on the books that says foreign words have to be eliminated if there is a Russian equivalent. Now, it's easy to make it a law. It's difficult to enforce. And Jay gave a whole pile of, ones that we could go through, but I'm not going to. If somebody wants to know, they can ping me later. I'll give them Jay's list. So there's already a foreign sourced word law on the language. But this is pertaining to signs. So you will no longer be able to go down the street and see Jordache in English. It has to be a Russian word. Activia yogurt is now I forget, but they've made a Russian word and it's sounds just like Activia, but it's not. So this has already started. People say, well, what about foreigners traveling in the country? What this law does, as it is in its current form, is it says that, like in Crimea, 90% of our street signs have the Russian and then it has English under it. And it's because it's a tourist area and they have tourists here. So whether you're German and you speak English, they're figuring that most of the Westerners speak English that actually travel here. And in my experience, that's a true case. So this is what will happen is if it's street signs, things like that, they will be replaced over time. But Russian has to be the primary sign. This is this street. It may be in Latin letters under it, but the first one has to be Russian. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Odious, to see how brands will be translated. So I was asked by somebody in comments about books to learn Russian. And I'm actually going to share a history book and two language books that you can use to learn. Now let's get this tab. So this book, History of Russia in English, was actually recommended to me by Russian friends and a couple of the Russian moderators on my channels. So the link to this and the books I'm going to share are in the description. You can go into the description, get the links to this. You can read it online, read HTML. On the language, this is one that other people recommend. It is not what my wife uses for her students because it's pretty basic and it will at least get you started. But the New Penguin Russian Course, and it is a beginner's book. It isn't going to teach you great grammar. But again, the link is in the description. And this is on archive.org, so you can go out there, you can read it. It's the entire book. And the other one, which I have also linked, is English Grammar for Students of Russian. Again, my wife does not recommend this particular book, but it is one that you can download and you can read. So those are the books for the nice young lady who asked me about books to start learning the language. And jobs for English speakers. There's a couple of Telegram channels out there. I don't know what they are off the top of my head. You can go to hh.ru or remote-job.ru. They are not linked in the description, but hh.ru and remote-job.ru. Yes, my lovely producer is telling me I skipped a bullet point, and I did that on purpose because I rearranged things a little bit in case I ran out of time. Because I can ramble a bit. So I've seen a lot of this lately, people complaining about the immigration police visiting after you apply for residency. Hey, Rosie, good to see you. The immigration police may or may not visit you when you apply for residency. So I see a lot of people saying, yes, they will certainly come. You better be there, hang around the house. If you're not, they'll come back once or twice more and that's it. Is what they usually do is they will come to where you are registered and they will check with the neighbors to see if any of the neighbors know that you have been living there full time. and they've seen you coming and going. If the neighbors won't verify that they know you or that they've seen you living there and they know that this is where you are physically living, then they will visit you. Now, they can assign this to another department. It does not have to be the immigration police. And if you're not there, they have 30 days to decide if they're going to come out or deport you. They're doing you a favor by coming out. So just be aware, make friends with your neighbors, greet them when you're going in and out, don't be a stranger, and you may never see an immigration officer. We had one come when my wife applied, and you know, none of the neighbors were home that could verify that we lived in the apartment that we owned, and we owned that apartment. So they came to our door and demanded to see her, and me never saw them, never showed up once. They did talk to the neighbors. We know for a fact that they talked to the neighbors. Yes, Christopher, they want to know that you're staying at the address you've registered at. And this is why you do not want to get somebody else to register you while you live somewhere else. Because if you do that, you very likely could find yourself, sorry, didn't mean to overwrite you, Jay. You could find yourself being deported because that is a violation of the law. Yeah, Turkey does the same thing. And so your registration needs to be proper. I see lots of people say, I'm not going to do that. I'll get a friend to register me. I'll get somebody else to register me. It's not only an offense for the person that is being registered, it's an offense for the property owner that registers them. And the fine is much, much heftier than it is for the person who didn't register. Of course, being deported is a pretty hefty fine. So this is the one Jay was getting me on. I moved it from 8 to 11. If you are in Russia and you've noticed that your cellular internet has been unreliable since about the 19th of December and through the end of this coming week after Orthodox Christmas, security services have been turning off mobile internet, particularly in regions that border Country 404, to prevent drone attacks because they have drones that can actually track based on mobile internet services. So that's what's going on if your mobile internet isn't working. I would say you probably will see this once in a while at other times, but just more often during the holidays. And that comes from our friends in security services, we will call them. So, a couple of notes on money since I have been through this over and over and over, and it's just quick notes. If you give me bad bank details to put your money into in Russia, and I take my time to go to the bank to put money into your account, and your bank details are not correct, do not come back to me 3-4 days later complaining you haven't gotten your money yet. I will ping you and say, hey, you gave me bad bank details. I had somebody do this, sent me the correct bank details, and a couple days later he's like, well, I guess I have to wait till after the holidays to get my money. Absolutely, because unless I'm going to the bank anyway, I'm not making a second special trip just for you. So make sure you give me your savings account bank information if you're sending money to Sberbank, or you will not get your money until I get back to the bank. And with the holidays, the exchanges were closed. I've actually never experienced this in Russia before. Usually they're closed for a day or so, but they closed from the 30th until today. So even the exchanges weren't working. Banks. The bank was opened for a few hours today, and then they're closed tomorrow, and then they're open Monday again. And normally Spurbank is open 7 days a week here. So do not send me money and then follow it up with how many rubles am I going to get? Money doesn't get here that quick, is what you will get as a response from me. Somebody got this from me last night. They sent me money and said, how much money am I going to get? And I said, today, how much money am I going to get today? I says, today, zero. Happens to be somebody I know. He was surprised because I actually had that handled this morning. So just about 8 hours later. So, taxes. I get a lot of complaints, particularly from Russians, about what I charge to move money. And God, you're making a lot of money. You charge too much. I can go here, I can go there. You know what? If you have the knowledge and the ability to send money yourself, go ahead. Make sure you're following the laws. You go through me, we're following the laws. I've talked about this before. I do pay taxes on the money that I'm receiving for people and putting into their bank accounts. So it costs me taxes in Russia. What a lot of you may not know is because your money in the West is going into my business account, I'm liable for taxes in those Western countries as well. So, in the United States, because it's going through a translation company or a services company, or basically not selling a product, I pay taxes on the entire amount you give me and put into my bank account. So let's say, for example, you put, I don't know, let's pull a number out and pull up the calculator here. I guess I should type it in English since my computer is set to English right now. Let's say you give me $20,000. Well, let's make it easy for my math. $10,000 to transfer you. I end up paying in taxes $500 in taxes on that $10,000. So if you don't like the fees I charge, I'm more than happy to do it for a smaller fee for you, but you pay all the bank fees, you pay the taxes, and we'll just add it all on, and then I'll add on time for having to calculate it all for you. So, yeah, 30, 40, $50,000, we're talking, several $1,000s that I have to pay in taxes. So, that's that. We have from Spurbank the Russian economy analytics for 2025. And Spurbank says the Russian economy will face increased inflation, tougher sanctions, and a new wave of ruble decline. And this comes from the Spurbank investment analysts, guys that I respect a lot. I use them for determining where my money goes. So by the end of the next year, they say the dollar exchange rate will rise to 115 rubles, which is about 16% up from today's levels. Sanctions pressure will increase, and there will be tightened sanctions on the banking system. Export revenue will decrease by 5%, and inflation will likely be, by the end of 2025, 8% versus 9% now. So it'll go down a little bit, but not a lot. And this is because of demand is growing faster than the growth of goods and services. This is why, butter was high for a while, eggs were high. Lending dynamics remain high despite the high interest rates. And of course, there's a big labor shortage right now. And, right now they're saying the central bank will raise the key rate to 23% in December, which has already gone by, and then 25% in February, and it will likely stay at that rate for the entire year. Now, on the subject of money again, and let's see, Europe tightening money transfer. Yep, I'm right there, Jay. I'm ahead of you. So Europe is tightening up on money transfers. This just in from Italy. They're putting stricter controls on cross-border cash movements to combat financial crime and increase transparencies. Stricter declarations, cash over $10,000 has to be accurately declared if it's even being wired out of the country. Or they'll be penalized. They can detain cash even under 10,000 euros. Sorry, I'm talking dollars, euros, if it's linked to suspected crimes or violating sanctions. Higher fines. Fines will go up to 900 euro to a maximum of 1 million rubles, 1 million euros, with penalties of up to 100% of the undeclared amounts. So if you take 100,000 euros out and you only declare 10,000, they can take 900,000 of it. And they're going to do digital monitoring, and they're also looking at gold and currency rules. So you have to be careful with gold as well if you're selling it. So Italy is doing this. Other countries are doing this. We've seen, lots of countries tightening the rules in Europe. Good news is you aren't transferring out of country when you're coming through me, because I'm actually giving you accounts in country. So, questions. Odious wants to know, can I tell you about oil thing at the Black Sea? Has it reached our beaches already? The oil was primarily in Anapa. That's where a majority of the damage was. It did reach over across to Kerch back about a week ago, and we were kind of hoping the winds would keep it out of our area. It has not hit us simply because of where Yalta is located, and kind of an indentation in the coastal area. It did go out around Yalta, and they have had some oil in Sevastopol. Not a lot like they did in the, in the Anapa area. But there have been some residue and some oil in Sevastopol. So, Christopher, I saved the owner of Mayakovska guest house a significant fine by standing over him with a club and making him register me one day before the deadline. And the FSB showed up the day after. It probably wasn't FSB, it was probably FMS. So the immigration police, they all work for the military. People don't realize that. Local police and FSB, National Guard, the immigration police, they're all branches of the military service here. But yes, and you will still run into people in Russia that will refuse to register foreigners. If you come to Crimea, I know where you can say, I know somebody who will register you. I know a few people who will register you. Some people do it if you pay them extra. Some of them you pretty much have to threaten. Some of the lawyers out there are saying, well, threaten them with the law, you'll report them if they refuse to register you. And as my friend Timur says, if you do this, then by the time the immigration police come around to question them about not registering you, they will simply say, I had other people interested and it's not on the market anymore, and I can't possibly register them because I can't rent something I don't have. So you're fighting a losing battle there. You need to use reputable people, and I know Jay is going to comment on this now. I actually am supposed to be doing an interview with a gentleman who works for one of the largest realty firms in Russia, and all over the country they do rentals for foreigners. You can find them. You have to look. You may have to be willing to pay a little bit extra. Excuse me. But it can be done. Worst case, you get yourself a cheap hotel, you register there, you stay there until you apply for your residency, you move your money over, you buy yourself a place to live. So that's worst case. Or you end up living in a hotel for a long time. I'll skip to Michael's question here. Sorry, Rosie. Are hotels required to register a foreign guest? Yes, absolutely. They usually do it in 24 hours. They actually have 3 days that they have to do it within once you check in. And they have to give you the slip saying that they registered you. Some of the cheaper out of the way hotels may give you a hard time about it, but if you go to a reputable hotel, and there's lots of them in every city, they will register you. I know people living in hotels in Yalta permanently, uh, and that's what they do. They just pay the daily fee for the hotel room, they're registered there, and that's perfectly fine for immigration. I have a guy in Simferopol that is registered in a hotel. He came not too long ago. He's gone. He's applied for his temporary residency based on that address, and they have no issue with that. Rosie, you didn't catch topic in full about messages, emails being blocked from the US, or was it EU to Russia? Telegram has removed some channels from some countries in the West. Yes, this is true. They do this by your telephone number. So in my case, I can see everything, not because I live in Russia, but because I have a Russian telephone number on my Telegram account. People living here that have their Telegram account on a US based number can't see certain channels. Those in certain European countries with European phone numbers can't see certain channels. There's always ways around it. I've got links posted in the West of Freedom Telegram channel, and I believe maybe an American in Crimea, but definitely here that tells you how you can see these channels and things. Okay. You're applying for a 3-year tourist visa. Yes, the registration process is the same for tourists as it is for residents. Rosie, if you are intending to apply for residency, come on the tourist visa. Yes, you have to register. When you get to the hotel the first night, ask them to register you. That'll hold you over until you find a place to stay if you're going to stay here longer. Then go home if you really loved Russia, which I'm sure you will. Come back on the shared value visa. Does Spurbank accept this registration card when opening a bank account? This registration being a hotel, yes, absolutely. They will take that as well. Spurbank is extremely Westerner friendly. That's why I do business with them. So we are at 45 minutes. If you have a last question, pop it in there. And if you don't, I'm going to keep my commitment to my producer and I'm going to end the stream. So I'll give you about 10 seconds to ask or we will shut it on down. Alrighty. Odious. What do you think about the new law about blocking IP telephony? I'm working at the tech support and that law sounds very terrible. I did a stream on that. I think it was last week. Go find it out in my channel out there. I talk about it. Again, the law is the law until it's not. And yes, the shared value visa has been available for several months now. And it will be it'll be available until it isn't, so don't wait too long. All right, so yeah, Odious, just check the channel. It was either last week or the week before that I did it. Do not come and apply for asylum. It's ridiculous to do so. You have to renew it every year and prove that you're still at danger in your home country. Just come on the shared value visa. Okay, everybody, that's it. I have gone 2 minutes over at this point, so what can I say? Odious, that's what replays are for. So you missed it, but ping me on Telegram and if you have questions. Hey, you're welcome, Jay. I made that commitment, so yes, Rosie, you can contact me by email or on Telegram. So, yep. Telegram is the best place to get me. I'm a little slow on email these days because I'm working about 20 hours a day. So that said, thank you everybody, and we'll see you probably next week.
С чего начинается Родина? С окошек горящих вдали, со старой отцовской буденовки, что где-то в шкафу мы нашли. А может, она начинается со стука вагонных колес, из клятвы, которую в юности ты ей в своем сердце принес. С чего начинается Родина?